You're listening to The People's Pitch, the official podcast of Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by FootballStadiumPrince.com. Let's start the show.
And as I talked about just a couple minutes ago, as Joe Watt stands over this one, he appears to be the one taking the penalty here. This is a huge confidence booster if you're Duluth.
Worst case scenario for City right here.
And it stopped! Yes! And it stopped!
Totally redeems himself.
Matt Elder redeeming himself. Oliver with the right foot. The shot of the goal!
Oliver!
Justin Oliver will break the scoreless tie. And it is 1-0 Minneapolis City. Is Hutton now on the offense with the left foot. And it is now 2-0 Minneapolis City.
Good finish.
Nick Hutton taking his quick victory lap.
Did you miss us? Because we certainly missed you. This is the People's Pitch Podcast, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City Soccer Club. I'm your host, John, and with me, as always, is my soccer fraternal twin, the Nate Morales. Nate, you've been a busy guy calling games for Augsburg. How's that been going for you?
Oh, it's been going really well, actually, both the men's and women's games. I get to call. So I get to be in the old booth at Edor Nelson Field again for the fall, and it's fun, man. It's fun to catch a different, get a different angle on local soccer, and it's good to see Jonah on the sidelines as an assistant coach. And before this season, I haven't been really familiar with the women's game locally, so it's really good to watch a lot of skilled players out there. For Augsburg and the visiting schools. So it's a good time. I'm just kind of sick of talking, man. It's a lot of soccer to be up there for. Plus I gotta make my own kids' games, so that's tough.
Well, and it's hard too because everyone doesn't really know that how hard it is to actually call a soccer game. And you have unlimited sub. Well, re-entry, no re-entry in the second half, but still, you have lax substitution rules, so you got to be on a swivel trying to get the names right. And I'm sure the other teams are a little more organized than what we're used to as far as giving rosters ahead of time, and there's not a lot of turnover week to week for the opponents that are coming in, so maybe a little bit easier for you. But you're alone, man, and that sucks. You need a booth partner. And, I'm not saying I'm throwing my hat in the ring, but I'm an off-season free agent if anyone of importance is listening.
Well, there's a big game coming up in a couple weeks, so I definitely want to see if I can sneak you up in there just for that Gustavus game, because that team is good, man.
Yeah, I'd like to see that one. I know we're not talking about MIAC soccer today, but we'll get into what we're talking about here in a second. But I've been following along because with the influx of talent in our club from the Futures program, every team in the MIAC pretty much has at least one city Futures player on it.
Yeah.
Or a returner. That was whether they were in the MC2 setup last year or with the senior group this year. So I've been following along. It's been some good soccer. I think this is like the golden age of the MIAC, to be honest with you, because I think that every team that I've seen, at least even the bottom half, has considerably grown from a talent perspective. So it's like every game there's going to be some sort of action, but we'll get into that on a later day. What are we talking about?
We'll do that in another show. This week, man, we're talking about a couple things. First, the U.S. men's national team. They had their send-off series before the World Cup roster is selected, and that competition starts in just over 50 days. So, what that means is John is going to have some thoughts, and you're going to be forced to hear them. Perhaps the harshest critic of the U.S. men's national team, short of Twellman. But we're going to round out our official, unofficial 2022 People's Pitch Podcast Awards with our final installment. We're going to dive into the inaugural year of the USL2 group and recognize some players and staff members that are deserving of the highest honor that we here at the podcast have to offer.
That we are.
Let's dive in, John. I don't know. I'm getting super fired up for this. Listeners, if you're getting as excited as we are for the world's biggest competition in this a weird ass year where, billionaires decided that it was a good idea to hold the World Cup in one of the hottest places in the world. The boys in red, white, and blue, they took the pitch just this last week for their customary send-off series, and it didn't go great. They they lost to Japan 2-0, and drew against Saudi Arabia 0-0. So not what you're looking for out of the final tune-up matches for this national team. Both efforts far under the bar for a group that, embarrassingly missed out on the last World Cup. And, it didn't give me a lot of hope that we're not going to get totally steamrolled in this group that we probably should get out of. John, I know you've probably been watching this a little closer than I have. So why don't you have at it first, and I'll just provide my thoughts. So let's
first
of all, start at the top. What are your thoughts about Greg?
Well, the one thing I'll know before I dive into it is, Nate, I know you're not new to the soccer world, but you're fresh in the soccer world, and I don't know how long you've at least gotten maybe World Cup fever.
I'm
but
12 years old.
Do you know the last time the U.S. lost both of their send-off games going into the World Cup was?
No.
It was 2002, which happened to be the modern day best ever appearance for a U.S. men's national team in the World Cup, going to the quarterfinals and getting a semifinal berth stolen from the Germans. This is where that's where my heart gets torn. But so it's not all doom and gloom. But like you said, we're going to start off at the top with Coach Greg Berhalter. First and foremost, the player selections. There's been the rosters come out, I believe, in about a month, which seems odd. You can't just do it right now if you want. But the official roster selections come out in about a month, and leading up to having to pick that pool, there's a lot of questions that are going out there. What are we going to do up top? What does depth look like? We have arguably the youngest group of potential rostered players in the world right now going into this competition, which is an interesting thing to say, but it's what happens when you scorch earth and you redo things. It happened with the Spaniards. It happened with Belgium, France as well. England should just do it, but they're not scorching earth yet, I guess I should say. But it's who's the depth. We have so many young talented players. Who fits where? You have players in goal. Do you go with an out of form Zach Steffen because he's best for the system that Berhalter has? So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered by Coach Berhalter that I don't know if he knows. I think I think
it's not good.
It's not great, Bob. I can say that. There's a lot of no-brainers, but I even read a Deadspin article today that was what if Christian Pulisic isn't as good anymore? And I was like, God damn it, you could kind of be right, Deadspin. Fuck you. You got me again. And I was reading the article and I was like, that could be true. Pulisic is in a position where he's the captain of the team, but you look at Brendan Aronson, who's just in form with Leeds and playing better than Christian Pulisic, but having to come off the bench in favor of Pulisic, to substitute Pulisic out. So there's a lot of questions that I think that the staff has to answer, and we're going to find out in due time. But it's like I said, I don't think Berhalter really knows. So my next point is is his style of play too progressive? So you look at like I talked about scorched earth. Well, part of that was what's the plan of attack? And the plan of attack, in Berhalter's words, going into his coming out of his press conference when he was hired, was, I want to put U.S. soccer back on the map. We're not on the radar anymore. We were at a very high level going into the 2006 World Cup. We were ranked 5th in the world. Those are spots for France and Argentina and Like we were riding high and then we shit the bed. So then we don't make last World Cup. But the style of play that Berhalter has is a very high pressing style that then plays out of the back. And you need specific players to do that. And I don't think that we have the players to completely pull off exactly what he's looking for, unless you looked at it like to my next point, like it's a system thing that grows over a course of time. We don't have time because these players come in for like a week, maybe two tops, and it's got to be real hard for those players to just switch off what they're learning in their day job that they have to do to get fucking paid.
Yeah.
Right? Like to get a paycheck. And then you go into playing for your country, which is arguably one of the biggest honors in sport. Regardless of it being soccer or whatever it is, it's a huge honor. And then you're going into a World Cup. So then you're like, oh my God, what do I got to do to make the team? I want to go to a World Cup. Like, this guy wants me to do this stuff that I'm not really fully capable of doing. I could kind of do it, maybe, but it's my responsibility to make the team to do that. And so, like, you have this competing thing with this progressive style that, like, Berhalter is, like, conceived in his brain, which I don't think it's out of the question, but it's out of the question for us, I think, to pull it off, right? And then you have the players who are coming from all over the world now.
Yeah.
It's not like back in 1990 where you just had a bunch of college players who weren't playing professionally, or some might have been playing professionally, and they're like, okay, we have 4 months to train for this World Cup. Like it's totally different now. So I know you have some thoughts on that.
You're touching on something that I was thinking about. Like, is what we're seeing the struggle to find some cohesion, the result of all these years calling for Americans to go abroad. Like, please, just anywhere, go play in Europe. You need that experience, because now, like, some of them are going to be called on to be a starter or someone that is relied on very heavily, where they're not really playing, like Tyler Adams.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Or Pulisic. Right. And that also begs the question too, is we've sent all of these guys to all these different.
Well, Ricardo
programs.
Pepi.
Germany.
Look at Ricardo Pepi.
Yeah, right. Pepi
bagging goals.
He goes to Augsburg. Man, he's fine. All these other players that are coming from Germany, from Switzerland, from England, from Spain. It's just like, at this point, John, what is American style soccer? Because when the German team comes together, it's going to play a certain way. When the Brazilian team comes together, it's going to play a certain way. England is kind of experiencing the same thing we are, but like, what is that style anymore, or if we ever had it?
So it goes to my last point. I really miss Bob Bradley right now. And I know people are going to be like, what? I miss Bob Bradley because Bob Bradley understood the American soccer player. And he realized that I need to build a team and a system that figures out how to get Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey the ball as much as humanly possible, as close to the goal as possible. And everyone else around them is going to work their asses off. And yeah, you can have soccer talent, but you were just going to put a shift in that's going to exhaust you to like 110%. But you get the ball to these two guys as much as possible because they're the ones that have the skills to put the ball in the back of the net. You can look at Bruce Arena. People shit on old Bruce, but you know what Bruce did? He figured out, why are we trying to play through teams when we have Brian McBride who can score with his head, and we need to get the ball out wide to people who have good service and bring it in, and then behind him are all the workmen who come in, and if McBride can't finish, they knock in a rebound and we scrap it out. That's not what we have right now. We have a coach that's trying to implement a style that just doesn't work for the player base right now. I'm not saying it won't ever, but Bob Bradley with this group, I think, would be more successful. And I know I'm probably gonna get roasted for that, but I believe it's true because look what you have. Look at the dynamic attacking options that we do have in someone like Pulisic and Aronson, Tim Weah when he's not injured. You want those guys to get the ball as soon as possible, as close as possible to the goal, and you want to transition quickly. And what do? We knock the ball around in the back, and then those guys their runs get stagnant. They don't go forward into those dangerous spots because they're like, I don't trust that center back to hit a 40-yard ball because he's tried, and every time he hits it, it's undercooked. So now I have to go back and get the ball, and now we don't have numbers forward. So then you look at guys like Ricardo Pepi, who is he's the guy who scores the goal off his shin, his elbow, whatever, his face, however he needs to put it in. Now he's being asked to drop deep and defend and fill the gap that these other players are leaving open because they have to go get the ball from the guys that shouldn't have the ball. You know what I mean? So it's tough, man. And so it goes into like my next category is the players. I've noted the difficulties above, but I do want to talk about like the right players. And we talked about roster selection, and like one person that in particular that I don't understand why he's being exiled is John Brooks. He's a World Cup veteran. Right now, the only player on the potential roster that has any experience in a World Cup is DeAndre Yedling. Are you willing to
Yedlin?
Are you willing to go into a World Cup with that being the fact? You only have one guy who's played in a World Cup. Like you need those guys who have been there before. John Brooks scored a goal in a World Cup. Like he hasn't fallen off the map, but he is better right now that that Robinson's down with his Achilles injury at center back. Walker Zimmerman is Walker Zimmerman, and I think he's outperforming his skill sets right now, and he's playing fantastic in the MLS. He does a good job. He fights hard. He has that grit that you American players have, but you need that other complement to him, and it's John Brooks. And I look at everywhere else in the field. I'm like, yeah, Yunus Musa, like you can see like the lack of creativity in the midfield. You're not getting creativity out of Weston McKennie. He's the guy who's going to be coming in late, scoring goals that are on the cutback. But it's like John Brooks is a no-brainer. Like even if he comes in and he's your fourth option for center backs, they're probably going to take 4. Even if he's your fourth option, I guarantee you, when the whistle blows in a World Cup, it's gonna trigger something that he's done before, and he's gonna perform. So like I don't think we have the right players in the mix in certain aspects, and I think age might be an issue. But I talked about that 2002 World Cup team. Everyone said age was an issue going to that too, because you had Landon Donovan, DeMarcus Beasley. Those guys were really, really young.
Too young, yeah.
But what did they do? They said, "Fuck it, I don't care. I'm gonna go out and ball out. Like I'm gonna prove people wrong." And they almost made a semifinal of a World Cup. So I think that we have youth on our side, youthful exuberance, we'll call it, on our side, I think is a benefit. But it's how you bottle it, because that leads into depth. Like when someone goes off the plot and they try to do too much, you have to rein them in and pull them off when they're younger and at that big of a stage. And I don't know who goes in next.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if Tyler Adams goes down, like is Kellen Acosta really it? Like in a World Cup? Like right? Like you know what I mean? Like if Pulisic goes down, then you have some options. If Miles Robinson or Dest goes down, like I thought Joe Scally played really, really well coming in for Yedling this past match. Yedling I would trust too because he's been there before. But like who of this group from a depth perspective do we trust?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all great points, and I think specifically I would say that it might also go back to just who can play well together.
Yeah,
right? Like you said, these are guys that play very separately in very different style systems, and that's how they get paid. And so what happens when you need to come together and you've got Gio Reyna and Christian Pulisic both trying to figure out like how do I play myself into stardom in my own league?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's like what we have problems with at Minneapolis City, bringing in all these college guys.
Yeah, like which we'll talk about in the second half of the show.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like it's how you put it all together, and I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. Like I have the faith, right? Like there's a lot of people who don't have it right now, and that kind of sucks. Like there's a lot of haters out there, but I look less about what Berhalter's faults are and his inability to connect, connect some things. And I look at the guys on the field, and like when you're in a major tournament like that, you need that player who says, screw what the coach said, like we have to play this way. So like I do have the faith, but let's talk about the group a little bit, unless you have anything more to add.
No, I'm really excited to talk about the group because like you said, really believe in the US, but I'm also really excited for one other team in this group, and we'll get to it.
So so just a refresher for those of you who don't know, I am sure all of you who listen know, we play England, Iran, and Wales. So when you look at that group, not necessarily the group of death, if you catch my drift here, but currently right now, England, they did draw Germany. Germany in that Nations League game, I don't know if you watched that game, Nate, but Germany had with COVID and with injury, they only fielded 16 players for that game. So like you're looking at the bottom. Some of those guys were like the bottom half of the group, and they're still talented. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. I would honestly take the bottom half of that German team if they were dual citizens on the U.S. team, and then be real happy. But when you're looking at Germany as a soccer nation, you typically look at like the strength that they have from top to bottom. But anyways, so
bottom half of that team was Kai Havertz. That's bold.
Yeah, or Musala, who like used to be playing for England and he was Anyways, so there's England. They drew Germany. They came back, but with the talent that is on that team, they're fucking hot garbage right now, man. I think they've gone winless in their last 5 games. They haven't done that since like the early 70s. The whole like it's coming home thing, like they better figure their shit out fast. Like the Lionesses won the Euros, and I don't think that the men are going to win a tournament anytime soon. But like the individual talent far superior to the U.S. if you look at like for like than what we have for England. So what does it really mean for Black Friday, which is awesome? It's like having the day off after the Super Bowl, like in American football terms, like England and the U.S. playing soccer on Black Friday, when like unless you work in retail or like the hospitality industry or service industry, you're not working that day. So you better crack a case of beer and just get after it. But I think it's funny too, because you're listening to Clint Dempsey in the studio for that game, and he's like, I don't care what happens, but just please start Harry Maguire when we play on Black Friday. And then I thought that was funny, and then I saw a meme of like Eddie Murphy just laughing, and then it was the caption was Aaron Long, after giving up 1 goal against England on a stupid mistake, looking at Harry Maguire giving up 2 goals, making stupid mistakes. And I was like, that's pretty good. But I think that Southgate, their coach, is on real thin ice. There was even calls that maybe they look for a replacement before the World Cup, which would be
yikes.
Yeah, which is disastrous for a country. So that type of thing, like people aren't like Greg Berhalter needs to get fired. People are like Gareth Southgate that needs to get fired. And it's not just the British tabloids. It's like within the FA who are like, we might be in trouble. So I don't know what it means, but then you have Iran can really play, man. Like I watched a couple of their qualifying matches. And they come out of a tough qualifying group, and the Saudis actually, they beat Iran in qualifying, and I think it's a similar team to what we saw with the Saudis this past week, but they're the sneaky team that can just like get hot. They play a really high line of pressure, which we know is not good news for our system, which likes to play out of the back. But they're very susceptible to the counterattack because they throw everything forward. And so their game's predicated on winning the ball in the offensive third and then quickly scoring. With the players we have on the counter, it seems like which team's gonna bend and break first. So is their press gonna break us, or is our counterattack gonna be able to break them? So I look at that one to be a really interesting one. And then there's Wales, who is a counterattacking nightmare, like with Gareth Bale and a few other players they have around them. Mixed with just some hard-nosed soccer players. They're a tough matchup, but I think that like they're more like for like with the U.S. with depth and talent. So you have this like interesting mix of teams in our group that I think every game's winnable, but every game could also be 3-0 loss. So it's going to be an interesting group for us. So my early outlook, I have three points here, and then I'll hand it over to you. So I have a positive outlook, a negative outlook, and then the likely outcome. So the positive outcome, I think, from the group is we win the group after 2 wins. We're gonna beat Wales to kick off the World Cup in day 2, and then we're gonna beat England. And then Southgate's definitely getting fired after the World Cup, and then we're gonna follow it up by like a weird loss game where we're already through, and then like Berhalter's trying to tinker with shit too much because he tinkers with shit too much. And then all of a sudden we're like, we have a lower seed, and then it's like, oh shit, who do we face next? Because we didn't sweep our group. So that's my positive outcome. My negative outcome is we go 0-3, and that's being totally realistic here. And then we have to start this whole experience all over again of a bruise at like the biggest stage of soccer that we had to claw back to get into and barely got into. Let's put that out there too. And so that's my negative outcome, and I think it really could be reality. And I know that sucks to say in here, but it's true. So my likely outcome is what we talk about all the time, Nate. One win, one draw, one.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
That's all you need. We squeak through and get fucking smashed by the likes of a Ghanaian team who I think is a real dark horse, or Brazil or France, or we get lucky and like Mexico squeaks through, we beat them 2-0 again, and then we get smashed by Ghana, Brazil, Argentina, France, Germany, whoever it might be. So
yeah, that's kind of the thing, is even if we get through the group, unless we win it, we're going up against Brazil or Argentina for sure.
Or the Germans, French. I mean, but ultimately I'll put a bow on this. I think it's Argentina's tournament to lose. I think that they built the team to play to Messi's strengths. Finally, they haven't done that for the past decade, and they've wasted the opportunity. I think winning Copa America was big for them to understand that you put a bunch of hard men around Messi who beat the shit out of anyone who touches him, and then you just get him the ball. And then he does his thing, and he's still got it, and his tank is completely full.
I can't believe it.
Because PSG is just bumbling that whole thing. You're going to see Messi in MLS probably in the next year or two, but this tournament, like, he's coming in fresh as he's ever been, and I think he's the one player in the world that I think can just do it all and actually carry a team in the modern game. And so I think it's Argentina's to lose, but we're going to do a World Cup show because it's going to be happening during our off season. So I don't want to spill too many of the beans, but that's what I got today.
Yeah, man. So I'm with you on this. I also got the faith. I really hope that Team USA can make a dent in this World Cup. I think if you think back to even 2 World Cups ago, where we were kind of already hoping for some youth.
You mean 3?
Well, right.
2 that we participated in ago?
No, I mean 2, like back in 20 what the fuck year, 2014, right, when you and I were watching it and watching the World Cup at the local.
That was the best.
And it was like we knew we weren't going to get very far, and we knew we were probably a little too old for that World Cup already, and we were just hoping, like, please, there's got to be a youth movement coming. I mean, it's here, dude. So it's here. This is what everyone asked for. I just hope that they can. I just hope that they can deliver at least a little bit for the fans. I'm very, very excited to see Wales. I think Wales is. It's so fascinating to me how weird and small Wales is, and they've got one of the biggest stars in the world that's pretty much just living to lace up for his home, for his crest, for his home. Like of all the criticism you get of Gareth Bale, you never hear any of that when it comes to the Welsh national camp.
No, not at all.
It's like this is one of the biggest stars in the world that shows up and loves shooting the shit with guys that are brand new to the camp that have never capped for their country, and here he is. It's just amazing to me. So I'm really excited for that story. I think Kiefer Moore could be, like you said, hardworking, hard-nosed dude up top. Might be the last ride of Aaron Ramsey. We'll see. So that would be really cool. And and I think England is similar to us. Like, I don't think they have any idea how to use their young players. I don't think they have any idea how to use Bellingham or Saka. I think they just got through.
I don't think they know how to use fucking Harry Kane.
Right?
Like, let's be honest. Like that. Like, right? Like that's what going back to Bob Bradley. Bob Bradley would be like, get the ball to Harry Kane. He scores goals. Get him the ball. And instead you have like Raheem Sterling trying to dribble guys on the outside. You're like, pass the fucking ball, dude, to the guy who scores goals. Like, what are you doing? Stop it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they are beatable. We'll see if we can get some veterans in there. Like you said, I think John Brooks would be amazing. I think it'd be stupid not to have anyone except DeAndre Yedlin as someone with World Cup experience. And Brooks feels like the right choice. But anyway, really excited for the World Cup, man. We'll do a show on it, and we're definitely taking some vacation. That's the week of Thanksgiving. Hopefully you're not going.
Yeah.
Are you going back to Milwaukee? Don't go back.
I am going. I lost that fight with the wife. I am going back. But it gives me the opportunity to go hang out with my soccer folk there, which I don't see very often because I don't live there anymore. So, and my British friends back there own a pub, and that's where I'm going to be. And I'm going to be hurling insults in their faces and then hugging after and probably getting insults back. But do you remember in 2014 we were at the local for that 2-2 Portugal game?
Yeah.
Just how like we left, we just like didn't even tell people at work we were leaving, and we just like we just left.
You, me, and Dan would just disappear.
We just disappeared, and then it was like, should we go back? Or like, nope. I had like 10 summits, and then Tony Zana showed up, and like we just hung out, and then like Kieran from Two Gingers and the originator of the local was hanging out with us. That was fun, man. We're gonna have to do that. We're gonna have to recreate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Except you're gonna be out of town, so.
Well, I mean, for that game, I'll be out of town, but I'll be home for the Wales game. I'll be here for just out of town for one game.
All right.
But anyways, people heard us ramble. We are
too much World Cup talk already.
Yeah, you get me excited, and I don't know what to do.
This week, John, we gotta bring to a close our recognition of the coaches and the players for what some could say is a well-fought season with our official, unofficial awards. And if you have been following along this year, we did a few versions of them because we fielded 3 teams. So this week, we're focusing on the USL2, the inaugural USL2 squad. A down season for the Crows as far as history goes. The USL caused us a lot of frustration, a lot of head shaking, a lot of teachable moments. So let's dig in and discuss them, John. We always get started with what are the big wins, and in this USL2 season, it's really hard to. You got to get out the magnifying glass, man. And I think I can only find one.
Yeah. Is this a game for ants? There was only one. There was one win, and we all know how disappointing that was for us. But it was a big win in the grand scheme of things because it was against a rival in St. Croix. It was a 1-0 win. You can Aiden O'Driscoll can say anything he wants, but I think that shot was a cross. But it went in, and we won 1-0. And it wasn't a convincing win. There was some headache involved, but it was at home. It was in front of a rather large crowd. It had recruiting implications for future future years to beat the crosstown rival, and to even the series up at 1 win, 1 loss, and 1 draw. And the weird that we have to play 2 teams 3 times. That was weird. But
yeah, it was weird.
It was big because we needed to exhale. There was too much inhaling all year. and we needed a big exhale, and it was really good to have it on the road or at home, our last game, and it was bigger. That win was bigger than a lot of people think. So yeah, that was my big win, Nate.
I'm with you, man. I think well, as the only win, it's easy to pick, but also, yeah, I mean, we had spent the entire season waiting to exhale, starring Whitney Houston, and finally, in the last possible game, the one we knew we could win, after seeing St. Croix already twice in the year, we did it, and it was like, God, finally,
We
this
did it.
team. I know, right? It's like the end of a feel-good sports movie. Like the Bad News Bears finally win.
Yeah, I don't want to call
So
it. I don't want to say it's too close to Remember the Titans, but it's not far off.
that's right. But
So
that was our big win. But we've also got big moments, and
yeah,
these are independent of the games that they existed in. These are just big moments that felt awesome, or at least were huge in the development of this team.
So there's 5 of them. Again, we're going from 5. We go down to 1. And in this one, you're going to get number 3 and 5 are the same game. So I will talk about them in order. But number 5 is the red card against the Menace in our inaugural game in the USL2, where that game was. It was a well-fought game. I thought it was probably the one game this season that I attended or I watched on the inner tubes that like we were outmatched from a talent perspective, but it didn't feel like it. Like it was end to end, and it was just a matter of time, in my opinion, until the Menace scored, and then the red card happened. And the reason why it was a big moment was because I think that moment defined our season, where we had the opportunity to capitalize, and we, with being in our first game against the reigning national champions at home, down a man or up a man, however you want to equate it, and we didn't take it and run with it, and
Right.
and from that moment on, it was a consistent fight to catch up with expectation. Like if that game goes 2-1 us, 1-0 us, 3-2, whatever it is, I think the season's different. I really, really do. So I put that as number 5. I thought about putting it as number 1, to be honest with you, because I honestly and truly feel that was the tipping point, and it was a tipping point with 60 minutes to go in our first game.
Yeah.
So number 4
A lot
for
of
me,
season to play after that.
yeah, but I think it defined our season. I honestly do. Number 4 is Bernard's goal versus Manitoba away. I thought
Wow.
one, it was a great goal, and I thought it was the turning point where it's like we're gonna win this game. We're gonna get out of Canada 1-1. We're gonna go on a run. Like momentum was high, and then
Yeah.
everything fucking fell apart after that, and then we lost 3-1.
Yeah. I mean, what was that? That was the one where
Aiden
basically
missed the penalty.
Aiden missed the PK. We had basically walked down the field, got pulled down for a PK. Aiden missed it, and then Bernard subsequently walked down the field and scored that goal. And we were just like, okay, this Manitoba team's just gonna roll.
Well, and we saw when Manitoba came into town, we saw it on the. I shouldn't say we saw it when they came to town. We saw it when we were away as well. But with our own eyeballs, we saw how good those players were for Manitoba, and it was right for the picking. And I think it was again that those things like where it started in the Menace game was like the pivotal thing happens, and what page do you turn? It's choose your own adventure. Do you turn to page 36 and lose, or do you turn to the next page and win? You know what I mean? I read those books to my kids, and every time I think about it, I'm like, God damn it, we missed that penalty. We would have been up 2-0. So that was number 4 for me. Number 3 was the loss to Menace again, like I talked about. So the red card specifically, but the loss to the Menace. And I mentioned it before. We showed in that game, and I think we were shorthanded too. We had to lean heavily on a lot of local guys. We hadn't really had a ton of time training
too early.
together. It was very early. It was like the game of the week in the USL. Like anticipation was high, and I think that loss. So I talked about like the red card being our season defining moment, literally in the first game. I think that the loss was a defining moment for the future. In that,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like success of like at the Menace level is far away for our club in the USL2. I really don't.
Wow.
I saw, and I know the back of the house that the Menace has. So take their big coffers versus our DIY soccer club and throw that out the window. But when you look at us using all local players, not bringing any imports in, and they're all imports. There's one guy from Iowa and he never played. We can compete with the likes of the Menace, even though we lost twice to them, 3 times if you count the Open Cup. But we sure put a scare in them in the Open Cup when they were using pro players. But that loss showed me as a leader in the club, or I don't know what you want to call me, as a co-founder, it showed me, and it should show everyone else, that we absolutely can get there, and it's not that far away if we continue to grow, put the right pieces together. It was our first year. Like if we were in our first year in the NPSL, what did we do? Like we barely hung on to the disappointing 3rd place, and we should have, on paper, with the squad we had, pretty much the same squad we had the next year, and we won the league and almost went undefeated. And then the following year we did go undefeated. It's the same story for me. Like, it's not far away. We can learn from it and we can move forward. So those are my 5, 4, and 3.
Well, we'll add to that, and I think one of the biggest moments, John, was the 2-2 draw at Peoria, because, like you said, on the heels of that loss, we're still away at Peoria, and we're still trying to figure out, can we even hang in this league? And I shouldn't say we, Eli Goldman claws us back at the death, right?
And Wes Lawrence too, to be honest.
Yep.
He set up that goal, but he worked so hard in that final 15 minutes to just put it all out there to try to get us back.
And that was like, those were about 15 minutes of some of the best team soccer that the USL2 squad had played in the season. It happened so early, and we were just like, if we can just do this all season, we're going to be in good shape. But we couldn't. But I would still say that was a big moment, is being able to claw back and earn that draw at Peoria and our first point in the USL2.
Hey, points.
We like them. And the number one big moment, John, he says it's a shot. We say it's probably a cross. It's Aiden O'Driscoll's goal that put us up and got us the win at home against St. Croix. Phenomenal long distance, and just either perfectly placed or perfectly lucky.
I mean, Aiden can put a soccer ball pretty much wherever he wants, so I'll give him a little bit more benefit of the doubt. But it went the goal, man. Who cares?
Yeah,
they don't
exactly.
ask how, they ask how many, and we had one more than they did. Boom, win.
Yeah. Boom. So those were our big moments. Next up is the teachable moments, and these are the ones that are like, I think there's probably going to be more of these, and they're going to be a lot clearer. We're not going to talk about more of them, but I think our teachable moments are going to be a lot clearer for this squad than they are for some of our other ones. And why don't you get started, John?
Third one is it's a difficult one to say and a difficult one to hear. It's play for the badge and not yourself, and it goes back to the brotherhood. It's what defined us as a club after our first year. And it was like the ethos that we built everything on was like, you're playing with hometown bros, you're building the culture, we go on the field, and collectively as a group, nobody can beat us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it used to be like. And what I saw, and like I said, this is tough to say and tough to hear. What I saw was, because things weren't going well, winning cures all. But when you're not winning, in the volume at which we did not win, a lot of people look at like, what can I get out of this situation? And I think I saw it a lot on the field with certain players. I'm not going to name any names, but there were players that looked like they were playing for themselves and not for the collective good of what we have built. And I know we brought in a lot of new players because we had to. But there were some new players that came in that I think absolutely took the play for your badge and the brotherhood and got wrapped up in it and are going to be players that continue with the club. But there's also a group I think that won't continue with the club because they're not for us. And yeah, they might be super talented, or they might be better than the next guy. But what we've learned, Nate, is that you might be better than the next guy who we don't select. But collectively, with a bunch of next guys, we can be pretty good with a bunch of next guys if we put them in the right spots.
Yeah.
And especially when you're going against players from all over the world, I think with the right mix of Minnesota-based players, we can still be successful. I don't think that mission ever changes for us. But I saw some players who they did it for them, and it sucks. It sucks, but it's part of how soccer works. When you're not winning, you're in this shortened season, you're thinking about college or maybe a pro opportunity after, you kind of try to look out for number one, and it's a reality. And I saw it this year.
Yeah. Which is too bad. Second teachable moment though, John. Another one that kind of took guys off the field in a different way, less mentally, more physically, were the injuries. And there were so many, and they happened across our entire club. And that meant that our depth chart was really, really hurting on all levels. And when you really count on kind of the next man up mentality that a 3-club, system creates, hoping to advance, hoping to get up, hoping to do my part, and maybe get the call up. Eventually, like when you're out of guys to call up, it gets tough.
Yeah, I think the injury thing. I went back and looked at an email that the club staff got from MVB, and he said currently we have 17 players on the injury report that should either not play, or if we're following basically the rules that we have with our club that we use as a selling point for college coaches, is that we don't force anyone back into playing. Like you got to be evaluated by the TCO staff, and Ann's got to give you the thumbs up, right? As the head trainer. We had almost a full roster of players that were unable to feature. That's hard to come back from. Yeah, we had a player pool of almost 50 players. Even if we didn't have a player pool of 50 players, and say you just do the math and you cut it by half, that's 7 players that you might have on a 22, 26-man roster that can't play. That's a lot. And injuries definitely hurt us. And I know there were a lot of guys that were hurt, and they might not have said something to Ann, and they grinded it out because they were playing for the badge. So it's injuries suck, man. And they suck this year.
That's for sure, man. And the biggest thing is like the caliber of player, both character wise and skill wise, that we know we lost to injury early, and maybe after 1 or 2 appearances is really what hurts too. Is to know
no
that, like,
appearances.
Yeah, right. Like, oh man, people you're really excited about that just never see the field.
Yeah.
The other teachable moment, I think this is the biggest one, is something that I came to learn, that competition at the USL2 level is high, and it doesn't matter what city you are going to or what city visits your club. When you take, I mean, it happened to us a couple times. Peoria, what kind of club is a city like Peoria going to have? Fucking Winnipeg? Are you serious? Manitoba, get real. How, you know what I mean? Like, how is it possible that those 3 places can field competitive soccer teams? Well, they did. Turns out pretty fucking good. Pretty much, was it Winnipeg that basically had the retirement home for Italian second league players?
No, it was a retirement home for former like Serie A academy players. They had so many guys. They weren't like, none of them were even Italian. They just all happened to play like, these 4 guys played for Juventus.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, what? And okay, real quick. I know I don't want to ramble on here. I know we got to get moving. I did go back and look at the one guy who played for Juventus, and he was definitely there when Ronaldo was there, and did feature on a roster in a year in a early Champions League game. Did not get in, but he did. He was on the roster, so which meant
in the locker room with Ronaldo.
Yeah, which means he trained with the first team for more than a week, right? If you're going to get on Champions League roster. So, yeah, anyways, keep going.
Jeez, that was it. I mean, that's my biggest thing is this. You find out that it doesn't matter where you're from. And, you know, the city is going to be, the competition is going to be high, regardless of whether or not this is, they train in the middle of nowhere. That's all. And that was a big eye-opening moment for me, especially away at Manitoba, away at Winnipeg. It was just like, holy crap. We had no idea. Yeah. Well, let's get on to the awards, John. Let's start recognizing some of our favorite people. And those people are, first, staff member of the year. We always like to give a shout to a staff member that we think has exemplified the city code as best as possible. And this time around, we've got an assistant coach winning the award.
Yes. So typically we have, for some, if you've been following the shows long, maybe we'll have an honorable mention and we'll have someone who gets the award. For this one, we don't have an honorable mention. Not to say that our staff is not honorable to mention, but I think this year it was assistant coach Michael Prunty. He moved over from being in charge of one of our teams to being a supporting asset for the other. And what I saw from him, I mean, if you follow him on social media, like, he's posting basically the framework of his style of play, and his thought process, his thought process. We'll just call it that. Out there on social media, whether it's with the women's college program that he coaches for, whether it was city stuff. But he brought to the table a level of expectation that I think we need to continue, that we hadn't had in the past. And that's no fault of anyone who's been part of the staff. And that's clear, defined video preparation before a game, expectations, what we worked on in training, how you apply it to how we're going to play. Yes, some of it didn't work, but the preparation that went into him establishing what best looks like from a preparation perspective, I think is something that we're going to need to build off of. And I think with that, he gets this award for me for sure.
Yeah, very, very professional as far as his approach goes, and very appreciated, like you said, like something that we just hadn't thought about. Still a club that is growing and figuring itself out. So very cool.
Absolutely.
Up next, Young Player of the Year, and look how far he's come. I remember just talking to this young man in the Dome as he's trying to figure out his life, trying to figure out post-COVID what he's going to do. And what he did is kind of light up the club at all levels.
Yeah. So, and I texted with him about coming on the show now that he's off in college. But honorable mention first, I want to go back to our Young Player of the Year for the NPSL, and also our breakout player and all sorts of shit. Newcomer of the Year, I think he was too. Andrew Shazinski. So Andrew only featured in probably 2 matches for the USL2 squad, and anybody was saying, John, why would he be honorable mention for Young Player of the Year? The reason why I put him in there is because the experience that he got in playing in those 2 games showed that he's not quite there yet for the level, but he got a taste of what it was. And then he got into at the NPSL level, and we saw what he did in the back half of the year. And it all started with his inclusion in 2 matches where he did not perform great, which is, again, John, what are you talking about? He didn't perform great, but it fueled what I think is going to be a really, really good career. And when you say career at Minneapolis City, it's like maybe 4 years. Career with us starting from this summer. But the young player of the year goes to the one and only Mr. Zach Susie. We're letting the Susie loosey, which is one of my favorite things to say when it comes to Minneapolis City. Zach he featured in he played in every game. He started in almost every game and was just constantly there. I do believe that the USL2 level this past season was a little too much for Zach because he wasn't able to in volume that he was used to because he hadn't gone to play soccer like you mentioned, which for a state player of the year, it's really hard to be like, you didn't go play college soccer because you didn't get any offers. That's weird. But COVID screwed him. He didn't have that college season, which I think would have helped him at the USL2 level. Because we saw him going to the NPSL level, and he was like, "This is easy," And then he was combining with Balik, and they're lighting shit up. They're beating Duluth, which was one of the best teams in the region at the NPSL level. But Zach, I think, was with things he couldn't control, was not able to perform at the level I know he can be at, and I know he wants to be at. Fast forward to next season, I think it's going to be a different Zach Susie. I think he's going to be the one being leaned on to score the critical goal because he's going to have that year of college soccer. And I've been looking at his stats. He plays 90 minutes a game.
That's great.
And I really want to get him on, and we're going to have him on after we wrap up these award shows. But Zach was my young player of the year.
I love it. And I think that when you talk about someone who was excited to contribute, excited to produce, excited to have a girlfriend who screams her lungs out directly underneath the booth every time he touches the ball.
He had a fan club, man. It was awesome.
He had the Shakapegians came out, man. I'll tell you what.
Well, his nickname is the Shaka Pele. Shout out to our producer Tyler for giving him that.
It's a good one. I think well deserved from Zach. Up next, John, this is one that I had to chew on a little bit because I had this guy for a couple other awards, but I appreciate that you had him here, and I had to agree with you. Most improved, and this is not necessarily someone that was hot garbage last year, but just someone that we saw take a big step forward, and these are both guys that have been in the system with the club for a long time, both honorable mention and the player that we've chosen to honor. So I want you to do the honors because you've known these guys really well over a number of years.
Yep. So honorable mention goes to Nils Gulbrandsen. And you might say, well, I didn't see him all year. That's because he was the one who got smashed by the goalkeeper in that Menace game that drew that red card, which I talked about was one of my defining moments. And he never featured again because of a bad shoulder injury that he picked up. So, but before then, Nils had been around since an 18-year-old. He's had a real interesting college experience, like going off to programs that didn't know how to use him, and he comes from Chisago Lakes, which I thought was Chicago Lakes until I actually went there. So I'm just gonna say he comes from Chicago Lakes. So in Chicago Lakes, he scored the most goals ever in a single season in Minnesota high school soccer history because he was a big fish in a small pond. Literally, he's a massive human being. So he then had to navigate the waters of like what happens when you go to a program or an opportunity where you're not the big fish anymore. Mm-hmm. Maybe you are in stature, but you're around players that are equal or better than you. And it took Nils a while to get there. And he just offers something from a frontline player that we we haven't had a lot at the senior level, which is a massive person who's going to create havoc just based off of size and speed. And he's got a good combination of both. And I think it was really unfortunate that he had the injury because he definitely could have helped contribute, I think, in the USL2 season. But my most improved is Wes Lawrence, and I agree with you. Like, putting him as this option was not because he was hot and garbage, but because Wes went in every fucking day and just did his job. And his job was not traditionally he was a standard backline player. He could play in the center, not his preferred position. Prefers to play out wide as an outside back. But he was asked for the majority of the season to be an attacking wingback, which, disrespect Wes, was not your thing. Like, that's for guys that have a little more trickery to their feet. Again, no disrespect, but Wes, by pure will and determination and playing for the badge, went in and performed. And there was never I shouldn't say never. There were some times where he got caught out, and that happens in a full season. But there were often times where you wouldn't actually like need to worry about Wes. You're like, that guy he's having to defend or is pretty good, but he hasn't got a shot off, hasn't scored today. And then you're like, oh, he's setting up the equalizing goal in the 95th minute away at Peoria. You know, so he just did everything that he was asked of to his best ability.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with Wes is, and this is part of my fault probably as a player evaluator, but similarly to Matt Murakami, I was always like pretty lukewarm on Wes Lawrence. I'll be honest with you, John. Where like every time I had seen him at the lower level, I was just like, yeah, he's not really doing it for me. He's making a lot of mistakes, right? But here he is all of a sudden just called up to the USL2 squad, and I'm thinking, what in the hell are these guys thinking? Oh, well, I guess I'll ride it out. And I think it was not a USL2 game, actually, that opened my eyes to him. It was the game against Duluth, where I was like, holy shit, Wes is a lot better this year than he has been in the past. And it just turned out that he continued to grow and grow over the season. And like you said, he was a guy you just didn't have to worry about. He just had his shit on lock, and it was great to see him. He's grown immensely as a player, and he's contributing really high at a really high level at St. Thomas this year too.
Yeah, they have him in the midfield.
Classic St. Thomas, just playing our players out of position.
Yeah, but he's yeah. I won't get into that. All right, next category.
Let's move on, John. Next one is breakout player of the year, and this is someone that is new to the scene, just making his mark. And I think we just jump right into the winner here because he was just phenomenal and electrifying. I'll say electrifying.
Yeah, so we don't have a honorable mention for this one. I think it was Xavier Zenge. If you listen back to our show on the MPSL group, we talked about all the things that make Xavier great. He was a lockdown defender, very similar in the situation to Wes, where he was asked to go forward, and then you're like, holy shit, look what this guy can do on the offensive end. And I think that it took a little while for him to get his legs with the club, but it started with the NPSL game against Sioux Falls away that I was helping with the coaching staff on. It started that game, and then it only grew. And I think that until he got injured, which that sucks, we talked about that already, he was such a valuable asset. And I hope, two hands together, you can't see me, that he comes back next year after a very successful season he's already having at Dayton right now.
Yeah. I mean, nothing to add there. I think he was so dynamic on the attack, which is weird to say for a defender. I think when you talk about, someone who's thrust into more of a wingback position, he feels like he was born for it. And there were just a number of times when he was looking really, really dangerous, looking about to be really, really dangerous in the box. And I think with more development, he could come back as a really strong player for this USL2 level next year.
Well, it's funny because we were. I mean, I was born in Dayton. He plays there, so I don't have any more ties to the soccer program there. But I used to know the head coach and from the recruiting trail when I was in high school, and my dad knew the coach that came after once we moved to Wisconsin. But we had been introduced to Xavier through some of the players like Bernard and Joey Tawa, who were friends with Xavier, and we knew about him, but we didn't know what he was going to do this summer. And then I remember I had a one-on-one with MVB, and I was like, so like, you know, have you talked to Xavier? And he's like, yeah, I think he's in, but I have a call with his college coach to ask him a few questions and talk about him a little bit. And then the next time I saw Matt, I was like, how did it go? And he's like, it went really well. You know, we talked about Xavier, and I was like, what was the takeaway? And he goes, oh, the first thing he said was, you're really going to enjoy having him on your team. And I was like, what does that mean? You know, like, yeah, is he a good locker room guy, whatever? No, he's quiet and he just works hard and does his job, and he's dynamic, and he just wants to play good soccer. And he was a delight to have. And like I said, I hope he comes back.
Nice. Well, on a newcomer of the year, John. And this is someone new to our club, hadn't really played for us in the past. Really loving the winner of this one. I think he was far and away one of the standout players in the club this year. So why don't you take it away?
So real quickly, go back to Xavier. I just pulled up his stats. He is featured and started in 8 of 8 games at Dayton, a total of 707 minutes so far.
Wow.
He's got 1 goal, and he has contributed 7 shots from the back line, and got 2 points on the year. So he's contributing for Dayton. Anyways, to go back to what we were saying, honorable mention for me is the man who buried Duluth and killed their title chances is Luca Contestable. And Luca is another person like Zach who college did him dirty. He went off to Coastal Carolina, an MTA product, and he just didn't. It just didn't work out there, and he had the hardest time finding a program to allow him to be part of it. And he's at UW Green Bay, which we're familiar with, and he's playing almost every minute of every game. But in the midfield, what we lost with Max leaving and retiring and Ian going to play professional soccer was that like possession-focused, calming presence in the midfield. And then we had that in Dom Mesgen, who ultimately left us to take a job at Northwestern Hospital and further his career. You know, like, shame on him for doing that to us. But when you get your master's degree in hospital administration and Northwestern Hospital calls you, you take the job, right? So anyways, enter Luca, and he was just that calming presence in the midfield, and like he ended up getting injured, but he hit that sweet free kick against Duluth, and that killed them. And we love a good Duluth killer around here, so he gets my honorable mention. But my newcomer of the year, and I won't belabor him beyond the low hanging fruit, because you can go back and listen to what we talked about with him in the MPSL recap, was Jamison Charles. I think that he had been on the periphery of being with us. He was the state player of the year coming out of high school, went to University of North Carolina, is just kind of but he stayed there for a summer and wasn't able to feature with us last season. And this past season, he did feature with us, and just a dynamo in the midfield. Like, the Minnesota Conte is the best way to describe this guy.
It's for real.
Box to box energy, like quiet positivity, and just wants to play soccer. Like, this, like, enjoys when the whistle blows and being on a soccer ball. And that's what you want out of a midfielder. Hard on the tackle, energy for days, just was a bright spot whenever he was in.
Absolutely. And I think, I went to a few away games when we went to St. Croix, for instance, where Jamison featured, and it's just like, you can just hear it in the crowd. Like, this guy's clearly the best player in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like, box to box, nonstop engine, every other FIFA cliche you can spit out, but like Jameson, and there were even points when it was just like nothing was happening offensively, and Jameson decided, "Fuck it, I'm just going to try to dribble all the way up the field," and he could. So amazing addition to the squad. I hope he comes back. I hope North Carolina treats him well, and he decides he wants to come back next year because he's definitely the kind of guy to build a club around.
Yep, absolutely. Nothing more to add there. Nothing more. But to go back to Luka real quick, he is featured in eight of 8 games at Green Bay, 500 minutes, and added a goal and an assist in a team that's kind of in like the hunt for potentially winning their conference. So he's also performing.
Nice. Up next, John, defensive MVP, and hard to award this in a year that defensively did not go so well. But I would say that I agree with you that week in and week out, there was one defensive stalwart that showed up, did the work, stayed positive, and did all that stuff that we talked about above as far as like playing for the badge. And he's just an overall great guy. We're going to have him on the show in a couple weeks.
And that goes to Mr. Jonah Garcia. I toyed around with having an honorable mention here and maybe saying Martin Sanchez because he made so many great saves and faced a lot of shots. But Jonah's goal, and he'll talk about it when we have him on, was to see if he can play at this level or potentially a higher level. And we give a lot of goals this year, so this is a hard one to hand out. But all signs pointed towards Jonah. I thought he leveled up with coming from the MPSL to the USL2. I thought that he was one of like the quiet leaders. I want to maybe hear, and I want to talk to him about it, is having more of that vocal voice to get the guys to understand why you play here, and because he was handed that information from the guys that were from the early days, right? And but when it came down to the whistle blowing, like Jonah oftentimes was on an island by himself, facing up against some younger competition, some guys that were coming from huge colleges from attacker perspective, or coming from Juventus, and he did a good job. Like his one, I look at all the stats that our numbers guys give, and he wins or won this past season most of his 1v1 duels, and that's a huge thing. And being that center back was one of our weaker spots from a depth perspective throughout the club, not only with the senior group but all the way down to the futures group, he performed, and there's no one else that I would give that award to.
Absolutely, totally agreed. I think you said it best about Jonah, that he was always willing to go up against someone that was probably the most talented person on the team, and usually he was the guy that locked him down. It was rarely Jonah's fault, which is nice to say. Hopefully he likes that we said that. Up next is the offensive MVP, John, and this is tough. But when goals were hard to come by in the USL2 season, we did have a player that before he got injured was kind of our talisman when it came to scoring goals.
Yeah, it's a name that everyone's going to be familiar with. Eli Goldman. Eli Goldman, I guess you can call him from an offensive perspective. He scored 3 goals and had 1 assist on the year, which was our highest point output at the USL2 level. And there's not much more to say. Eli just did Eli things. I think if you ask him, it was a down season for him because he left a lot on the table. There were some chances he didn't put away that typically in historically he would have, but he was our offense. We talk about Luik, who's now playing professional soccer, but Eli was the guy, and when he went down, it was like, what are we going to do next? And then insert Luik, and Luik did his best as an 18-year-old, but Eli was from an attacking perspective probably our most seasoned vet in our club, and he did a great job this summer.
Yeah, agreed. And again, he's just blowing it up at New Hampshire. If you're following the social feeds, he's just crushing. So, congrats to Eli. Glad we can continue to elevate your game through summer soccer. And now finally, John, on to player of the year. Overall, this is someone we've already talked about, as is usually the case. But there are a number of other statistical points that you want to put forward. So I'm going to let you do the honors and announce our official, unofficial player of the year.
It's Wes Lawrence, and we talked about all the things that Wes did. But we put some stats around our players of the year if you can listen to our shows, and he's one of the only original Stegman's products that's still out there. Nick Hutton was unfortunately injured and was unable to only feature in one game. But Wes is one of the Stegman's products. Going back to the roots, he tied for the team lead in appearances. He played just over 500 minutes, had that big assist in the match in Peoria that got us that draw. Eli scored that goal. We're talking about offensive MVP there. Had that one assist. Just plays for the badge and that workman effort. And it's something that you just got to love, and I think that what he's doing with St. Thomas right now is just the next step he's taken.
Yeah, he definitely feels older than he is. Because he's been around for so long, but continues to develop year in and year out. And I think the idea of the workman's effort and playing for the badge in this kind of a season really sets you apart from your teammates. And so congratulations to Wes. As a recap, in case you forgot, let's take a quick look back at our USL2 season. As we have mentioned, not ideal. 1 win on the season, 2 draws, and 9 losses. That's a lot. That's the most losses of all time in any Minneapolis City season. But what can you do when we're still learning the competition? That's good for 5 points, 11 goals for, 25 goals against. Not awful, but when you've got only 11 goals across 12 games, that's what you're just going to get that kind of a record. However, the bright side, no red cards, very disciplined team, but still last in the USL2 Deep North. And so final thoughts from me, John, on all of this is, I'm going to chalk the USL2 season up as a learning experience. Some might look at the NPSL season this year as a failure or the victim of circumstance or, young guys that might be, or different guys that might be kind of out of their element or not used to playing with each other. I think the USL2 season purely is a learning experience for the club, for the players, understanding how much we have to elevate our game really in order to compete at a higher level. It's just not that easy to make the step up like it would be from the UPSL to the NPSL. USL2 is a totally different animal. And I think we're going to be better equipped next year to take it on. And I've got all the faith in the world, much like I do for the U.S. men's national team, that we are going to compete at that higher level and improve year in and year out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you couldn't have said it any better. It's a learning experience. I think it's a wash. I think we take the bits and bobs that we can take out of it, and we learn for what we're going to do next. And like I said, I don't think we're that far off, and I am like about what the future holds.
Nice. I agree, John. And that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you so much for listening to this week's show, and thank you to our wonderful show sponsor, footballstadiumprints.com. If you're in the market for curated soccer-focused graphic design on anything from mugs to t-shirts, head on over to footballstadiumprints.com. John, I saw the Ibsen shirt from footballstadiumprints.com in the wild last Sunday at my Roseville 35-plus co-ed league.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see. Get on over and fill your card up, and we will thank you. Don't forget, you can use the code CROWS10 for 10% off everything you purchase. And remember that all U.S. orders ship right from the States, so there's no international shipping charges. 2023 memberships are now available. Jump in right now and you get a vote on really cool stuff like what leagues are we going to play in next year. Plus, you get that discounted price and a voice to help shape the club for next year. As a reminder, Minneapolis City is a 501c3, so consider a charitable gift to the club that loves to give back. And if you are interested in getting a hold of us, it's so easy. You just got to email us potentially. You can hit us up on Twitter. That is at MPLSCitySC. You can talk to us via email at mcscpodcast@gmail.com or tweet at us, the show, at The People's Pitch. And that's all for this week. I've been Nate. That was John. The awards are done and wrapped. We're now in full off-season mode. We're going to talk to some really cool people that are either with the club or adjacent to the club, and I'm really, really excited. But if you've got some suggestions, feel free. Let us know what you want us to cover. It's a People's Club. It's a People's Pitch. It's a People's Show. So you've got a voice in what we bring to you. And as always,
get hooked.